Hey everybody, today's video is the most ambitious video that I have ever made. It is over an hour long, which seems like a long time, but when you consider that it's been condensed down from almost 50 hours of video, I think you can see that it has a lot of very valuable content. Today I'm building one of my weapons of peace. It's the full process, from making the prep all the way to the final moves. Every step is carefully documented. I think you'll really enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Like I say, it is the most ambitious video I have ever made. It actually took quite a bit longer to make the video than it did to build the piece. I had a little help on this video from my good friend Chris Desmarias. He provided a third camera viewpoint. It's hard enough to edit 2 camera viewpoints. Wait until you try 3. Anyway, he made it so that we have a very, very thorough, good look at all the different shots and angles of this process. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. So thank you, Chris. He's on Instagram as Puffer Glass Tools. Check him out. He's got some great stuff that you won't find anyplace else. Puffer Glass Tools. Thank you, Chris. My client has requested a 60% scale Draco Mini, a type of modified AK-47, in all transparent ruby red with flames on the receiver and on the front. He wants the flames to be red and yellow, and for the bullet tips to also be colored in yellow. This is a rendering of the design I submitted to my client for approval. This type of rendering serves a number of very useful purposes. The client can clearly see what I propose to make for him, and I use a copy printed out at the intended scale as a template for making of parts. To make this design, I am using a 3D modeling and animation program called Blender. I create the design using complex geometry in virtual 3D space and then apply very realistic materials to the surfaces. I can see what I am making from any angle and make decisions on construction and aesthetics from the virtual object instead of having to do it with the glass object. This allows me to develop the idea to a much greater extent than I can using a hand-drawn sketch, and to show my client much more clearly what I have in mind. I have placed a link to Blender in the description below. I encourage you all to try it out. It is completely free to download and use. For the parts of the gun that will be hollow, I make prep from a 26mm pomegranate tube. Besides the 4 parts, I also need some 12mm tubing for the plumbing and other smaller parts. Finally, I need some 5mm stringer for the cage, rails, magazine, and other parts. The first step is to make the front receiver out of one of my pieces of pomegranate prep. I use the printed rendering as a template to control the shape and scale of this part. I handle up to the back of the front receiver because I'm going to add the suppressor next. I add the suppressor to the front of the receiver and open up the end. The front flame is next. I build it out of a solid gather of pomegranate and yellow, blown out into a bubble. flare the yellow end and cut it with my shears. Then, one by one, I draw out the flames. I attach a forked puntee and square up the bottom to match the end of the receiver. Back on the lathe, I attach the front flame to the receiver using 4 small dabs of glass. I use my mini torch to clean up the welds. Now I attach my project handle, a piece of 15mm heavy wall tubing. This seal has to be good because it will hold the entire project at the end. The front side is next. It is a small part that is added to the front of the receiver. I make the forward grip next. This part is carefully sculpted out of pomegranate rod. I attach the forward grip to the bottom of the forward receiver using 2 dabs of glass. Next, I make the front rail. Unfortunately, I don't have the entire process recorded here, but don't worry. There is also a rear rail that is made the same way that I did record fully later in this video. The grip is the next hollow part to make. I use the piece of pomegranate prep I made for this and shape it to match the template. This part will also serve as the water chamber since this is going to be a functional piece. I add 4 dabs of glass to the top of the grip. These will be the attachment points for the frame that I will make later. To prepare for the plumbing, I make 2 raised blisters on the top of the grip. I handle up to one of the blisters so I can finish the bottom. I use my graphite reamer to indent the contours on the front of the grip. I open the rear blister and attach a short length of the 12mm tubing. This will eventually become the mouthpiece. Then I open the other blister and widen the hole to receive the downstem. The plumbing is fairly simple, but it must be precisely placed. First, I make a bend in a short piece of the 12mm tubing. I make the perk by popping 3 small holes in the tip of the downstem. Then I handle up to the end and push a small Maria just above the bend. I will seal the stem into the grip using this Maria. I insert the downstem cold and bridge the end to the mouthpiece to hold it in place. Then I carefully use my mini torch to complete the ring seal, making sure that the seal is sound all the way around. I remove the bridge and bend the top of the stem forward at a 90-degree angle. Then I open a hole to attach the extension. I use another length of the 12mm tubing to add the extension. I don't know how long it needs to be yet, so I just leave it a little long. I bridge it to the mouthpiece and clean up the seal. Making the frame is a very tricky process. I use the printed template to make sure I stay on scale. I make 2 sides They have to be identical, so I frequently compare them side by side. I add short struts to the corners and attach the two sides. Then I use my mini torch to clean up the seal. Here I am making sure the frame fits over the grip as intended. I add the cross pieces one by one and clean them up as I go. I add a handle to the frame to make it easier to manipulate. The result is a cage-like structure that will conceal the plumbing and hold the flames on the back end. Now that I have the frame completed, I can determine exactly how to bend the mouthpiece so that it is in the correct position. I make the bend before attaching the frame to the grip. I seal the frame to one of the dabs I have added to the top of the grip. Then I carefully add more dabs and melt them in to hold the frame in place. I add 4 dabs in all to complete the assembly of the frame to the grip. I remove the handle from the frame and the assembly is complete. Finally, I remove the excess length from the plumbing extension. Now that I have the frame attached to the grip and plumbing, I now know where to attach the joint. I bridge the end of the extension so that it can be worked without it moving around. I make a female 10mm joint from the red tubing and cold seal to the top. I open the bottom to prepare it for attachment. I make a small hole in the top of the extension and size it for the joint. I attach the joint to the extension and burn off the handle, leaving the cold seal in place for easy removal later. I carefully clean up the seal using my mini torch. No bridge is needed here. Another tiny part, the rear sight, must now be made and attached to the frame. It is made very much like the front sight was. I add a small cross piece to the top of the frame and attach the rear sight to the rearmost two cross pieces. Now, as promised, more rails. I first add the rail supports that are parallel to the frame, making sure they are perfectly parallel to each other. Then, one by one, I add the rail pieces, flame polishing each one as I go. The trigger and trigger guard are sculpted separately and added to the frame. First, the trigger is shaped and attached to the bottom of the frame just in front of the grip. Then I make the trigger guard, using my template as a guide to its shape and size. The trigger guard is welded directly to the grip so that it just clears the tip of the trigger. Then 2 dabs of glass are added to weld the front of the guard to the frame. I use my mini torch to clean up all the seals. There comes a point in all of my weapon builds where 2 halves that have been constructed separately must be brought together. This is always the most critical step of the entire build, so I call it the Crux Seal. The Crux Seal of this build will be welding the tip of the plumbing extension to the back of the front receiver. There are also 6 seals from the frame to the back of the front receiver where I have added small dabs of glass to join the frame. Needless to say, this is a precarious business until enough seals have been made to hold the 2 halves together securely. Here I am adding to the center struts of the frame so they will be the same length as the upper and lower struts. I make a quick assessment to make sure that I have everything lined up correctly, and then return both parts to the kiln to restore their heat base before making the actual seal. I make the stick and proceed to remove the handle from the grip. It pops right off, indicating that I am extremely lucky that it has held up until this point. I hold the grip and frame assembly with a glove while I make final adjustments to the position. Now I add a safety bridge to give me a little added security while I make the rest of the welds. I work over the Bunsen burner as much as I can to keep the heat in the piece while I work. One by one, I dab glass into the gap between the frame and the front receiver, and clean up the seals as I go. As I complete each seal, the attachment gets stronger and stronger until it is complete and the 7 seals hold the 2 parts of the gun securely. The decorative flames are made and attached one at a time. They are made of pomegranate and yellow glass, just like the front flame. There will be 10 flames in all, mostly concealing the plumbing and completing the rear receiver portion of the piece. The next part to be made may be the most complex of all, the magazine. All of my gun builds feature a see-through magazine, so you can see the bullets inside. The magazine is built the same way the frame was. I pull 5mm stringer and bend it using the printed image as a template. I need 10 bends in all, but I will only show you 2 here. Just like the frame, the two side halves must be identical. Short struts are added to one side, and then the two sides are welded together. Eventually, I have to attach a handle to make it easier to move around. Each piece is carefully sized and added to the framework, using my mini torch to clean up the seals. I add all the pieces to the magazine except the final two side pieces. They will be added after the bullets are installed. The bullets are made out of pomegranate with yellow tips to match the flames. I need 10 of them, but only show you one here because they are all exactly the same. I pick them up with the tweezers and add them to the magazine. Then I weld in the last two pieces of the magazine frame to secure the bullets in place. 2 large dabs of glass are added to the top of the finished magazine. I'll use these to make the first attachment to the frame. I take a quick visual to make sure the magazine will fit the way I want it to. While the magazine is in the kiln restoring its heat base, I take a moment to remove the rest of the handle from the bottom of the grip. I also take this opportunity to open up the mouthpiece and flare it to a comfortable diameter. And now I am ready to attach the magazine. There's no way to get a proper heat to make the weld, so I just get it as hot as I can and then stick it. I have to hurry to polish one seal before the other gives way. With only one good seal, I very gently set the piece down on the table so I can work the other side. This eliminates the risk of the piece falling if a seal gives way. Now, with 2 good seals, I can remove the handle. Finally, I add the last 2 dabs of glass between the magazine and the frame. I make sure all 4 of these seals is perfect. The last part I have to make is the scope. The scope will be a dry piece that will fit into the joint of the main piece as a decorative item, so it needs a 10mm hollow male taper on the bottom. These are tough to make, but I get really lucky and nail it on my first try. I attach a cold hollow handle to the bottom of the taper and push a small decorative Maria just above it. Then I open the top and flare it. I attach the finish male taper to the bottom of the scope. A quick tap removes the hollow handle. I fire polish the bottom and clean up the seal. Now I make the two small knobs for the top of the scope. I serrate the edges with a butter knife. I pop a hole in one end and push a small bowl. I open the other end to serve as a mouthpiece. For this dry piece, the hollow 10mm taper will serve as the carburetor. Only one more thing to do. Using my finishing tool to hold the piece, I remove the project handle, open the hole at the end of the suppressor, and clean up the tip. It is a very gratifying feeling to successfully put a piece like this away, worthy of a fist pump. And here is the final result. Well, there you have it. I know that was a long video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll be posting more videos soon, probably not as long as this one, but you know, they'll still be good. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And we'll see you next time.